Hi, welcome to the addendum to the Indivisible Illinois meeting that we have aptly named Technology, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. My name is Linda Callis. I'm one of the executive board members of Indivisible Illinois, and I'm going to be covering a variety of tools that hopefully you'll find helpful if you don't already know about it already to keep you and your organizations organized, effective. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I'm actually going to start with Gmail. Most of you who are watching this video probably have a Gmail already, but if you don't, I'm going to show you, and if you can see my cursor, it's pretty big. I am using a Microsoft Surface computer, so this is what it looks like for me. Everybody will look a little different. But if you don't have a Gmail yet, or you want to set one up for your organization, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go here at the URL, look up Gmail, and there's a option to sign up. And you can just go there and follow the requirements. For this demonstration, I've created a new Gmail for myself. So I am going to go out of this tab and go into my new Gmail. So what I wanted to show is not so much the use of Gmail. We all have online mail, whether it's AOL, Gmail, etc., which we're all probably pretty familiar with. What I wanted to point out was these dots that are here in your Gmail, which you may or may not paid attention to. But if you go, once you have that Gmail, if you look in these dots, these are all the things that you have available that you could use from Google. And I am going to actually start, I will talk about a few of these items. I obviously will not talk about all of them, but I'm going to start with actually a really nice tool called Keep. It's down, as you can see, it was down a little further in the list of apps. So I'm going to go to that right now. And what's nice about Keep is it's a way to use their word, keep track of things you need to do. It's kind of like taking notes on your phone or sticky notes. But what's nice about it is you can put labels on these notes so you can keep it organized. So I'm going to walk you through how to do an example of, let's say that you were trying to organize 2 different events and you needed to do certain things to get it done. And so you wanted to take notes on it, and different people are doing different things. So here's the basics of how you do Keep. Right here, as you'll see, it says take a note. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It's, let's just say for event 1, I need to find speaker. And you notice as soon as I start typing, this is the action that I'm typing in. You can give it a title. So I'm going to give it event 1. But that's not really going to be the important thing of keeping you organized. So you need to find a speaker, you need to find a venue, you need to create flyers, you want to create Facebook event. And as I'm typing this, if you want to go back and fix however you're typing it later, it's very easy. And create an agenda as you get closer, and then eventually the event. So if you have a list like this of just things that you have to get accomplished, you can put them in a note, and you can actually put in what's called checkboxes. See, if you look on these 3 dots, there's a show checkbox. So that way, when that's been completed, you can check it off. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, how am I doing? Am I making progress on the event? You can check it off and say, yeah, I got it done. Now, the important thing on all of this is what's called labels. So I am going to add a label, and I'm going to call it event 1. So now I know, let's see, one thing to learn about this: when you add a label and you do event 1, you have to put the check mark in. So I didn't do that the first time. So now I have event 1 at the bottom, and this is really how you keep things organized. So now I know I have an event 2. So I am going to make a copy of this, and I'm going to call it event 2. And I'm going to change label. And you can change label by unchecking that event 1 and doing event 2. So now I'm going to create event 2. Okay. So now I have 2 basic events, and I've got a checklist, but I want to assign it some of the activity to some people. So I'm not going to do all of this, but I'm going to do another note, and I'm going to say, this is for event 1. And we need to find a venue. And given when we're going to have the event, let's say the event's going to be in early January, I really need to find a venue, I don't know, by December 3rd. Okay, so I need to do that. So I've saved that. I want to add a label so I know this is related to event 1. And you notice that now, since I've created labels, it gives me it actually shows me then. So I'm going to say, yeah, this is related to event 1. And I'm going to add a label because I want helper 1 to do this. This is going to be their assignment. So I'm going to create helper 1. And now I've created this note, find a venue. Okay. And I'm going to do 2 more notes. Let's say for event 2, I need somebody else to find a venue. And this event is later, so I'm going to put a date on it of, let's say, January, maybe the end of December. I'm going to say December 21st. I got to find the venue. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to add a label. I know it's for event 2. And I'm going to say helper 2 is going to help with this. Okay, so if you look here, you've got a lot of things, right? You've got the list, the complete list for event 1 and 2 that you could little by little say, oh, I got the speaker, I can check that off. And you notice it goes down here and says, oh yeah, I found a speaker. I made the mistake. I really didn't find it. It goes back up. So these are kind of help you figure out, okay, what do I have to do for the whole event? And then you can set up other notes of, well, who's going to do it? And if you notice for vendor 2, I did not. I'm going to change the labels. Again, once you have labels, it's called change labels. And I'm going to have a helper 2. Okay, and I'm going to do one more note. And this time it's going to be create the flyers. And it's going to be for event 1. And helper 2 is actually going to do this one. So I am going to add a label. And I want this to be event 1, and helper 2 is going to do this one. Okay. So now I have 3 kind of separate notes about who's going to do what and when. And then also, and you notice that I did not put a when here. That's really important. So I'm going to pick a date. This is for event 1. Creating flyers is going to be, that can be somewhat later. I'm going to make it, let's see, pick a date and time. I'm going to make it December 17th or the 20th. Okay. All right. So now if you do enough of these notes, you're like, okay, it's hard to see everything. You've got the complete list of the events, you've got who's doing what. But the nice thing about it is I can come over here to the left and say, I only want to see my notes for event 1. And boom, any place where I had the label, so it's not because of the title, it's where I had the label of event 1, it shows up. And let's say that I am helper 1, and I'm like, okay, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? I can just go to my own, any place that I'm listed, and it's like, oh yeah, I have to find a venue for event 1. And if I'm helper 2, I find out that, oh yeah, I have to create flyers for event 1 by December 20th. And by the 21st, I have to find a venue for event 2. So this is a pretty easy tool. You don't have to be super organized. As you just think of things, you can put in a note. And the key thing is to make sure that you put a label on so it's easy to find the thing you're looking for. So again, you can see all the notes up here, or you can look at just event 1, or just event 2, or just the person and what they need to do. And there is a reminder that basically will show places where you've actually put dates. So that's it on Keep. It's a pretty cool tool. And when you're done, besides the checklist, if you're just done, you can delete the note, or there's an archive. So that's going to be it for Google Keep. So I'm going to go back to my Gmail. As I said, I was going to talk about a couple other things. So again, with these dots, you can go to your drive, and that's where all your, basically your drive is where all your files are going to be. So I'm going to go to the drive. Again, I've done that. This is new. So I have nothing here. And it's going to give me all kinds of hints when you first start. It's going to tell you how to do things. But what I want to do is create a place for my files. And the most important thing you can remember if you're starting new or you're trying to get organized, if you start your documents out of your drive, you're going to just keep them more organized. So let's say that I know I'm going to have, well, I have an event 1 and 2. So let me do this. I'm going to say new, and I want to do a new folder. I actually have no other folders, but I'm going to do a new folder. I'm going to call it event 1. So I'm going to create that. And one of the important things you want to do when you create a folder is say, okay, who am I going to share it with? And so you go to share. You notice there's the 3 dots. That usually means a menu. Go to share. And I can add people. I'm not going to do this here, but I can add, well, I'm going to add, see, I'll add myself, my actual email. And I am going to add my Gmail. But you can add anybody that you want to share this whole folder. And those people you share it with can be editors, which means they can add files, edit files, organize, commenters, which means they can make comments on the document or just view it. I'm going to keep it to editor for now. When you do this, you can go ahead and say, let's see, it didn't like mine. There we go. You can go ahead and say notify people, and you can send them a message and say, hey, I am letting you be a part owner of this document. Or you can choose not to do that, and you can share it later. I'm going to unclick the box. It automatically puts the box in, but I'm not going to notify myself. And then I'm going to do share. Okay, so now I have event 1 folder. Now I'm going to do a second folder. We'll call it event 2. And I, again, with the 3 dots, I'm going to share. And I'll add myself. And you notice because I had used these emails before, it kind of anticipates you're going to want to do that. I'm not going to notify myself, and I'm going to say share. Okay, now I can go into those folders, and now I can create, let's say I want to create a Google Doc. Now you can go into, I'm going to stop for a minute and go back to my Gmail, and you can definitely, in your Gmail, go back to those dots, create a Google Doc. Once you find the doc, let's see, where is it? Right here. But then it's not really where you want to have it. Or you could just type in up here, you know, get a new spot and say Google Doc, and you could create one. but again, you're not necessarily putting it where you need it. So recommendation is always create the document from the drive. So I'm going to go back to the drive, and I'm going to go to my drive. If you go into your drive and you're like, I can't find anything, going to my drive over here gets you kind of to the beginning. So if you'd kind of been digging into places and you don't know where you're at, go to my drive. Okay, so I'm going to go to event 1. That's my file. And I am going to go back to new, and now I'm going to do my Google Doc. So now you notice that it says create and share. So what'll happen is, because I am putting this document into this folder, it's going to create and share exactly as the file was, or the folder. So this document will now be available to the same people. So I'm creating the document, and I'm going to go into share, and you'll see, well, it wants a title first. We're going to say event 1. And when I go in, you'll see that it is shared exactly how the folder was, or the file. So that's why doing it right from the drive and the file you want it to be in is the best way to create your documents. So now if I wanted to, I could say, yeah, I don't want this MLK person to do anything but view, and then I could do viewer, and I could and now it asks, you notice, do you want to update the parent? And it's like, no, I don't want to update the folder. Just for this, I only want to update this document. So now MLK is just a viewer. Or I could say, you know what, for this one, she doesn't even need access. So I'm going to remove access. And again, it's going to say, oh, do you want to also remove the parent folder? And you'll say no, or in this case, I'm going to cancel what I'm doing. Okay, so that is why starting a document in the folder that it belongs to, as opposed to trying to get it in there later, is just a better way to do it. Now, I think most people know how to use Google Docs. I'm just going to give an example of some features that I find useful. So event 1, plan. And you always have the ability, if you don't see what you need here to do whatever editing, there's always those 3 dots, and that's where you'll find more stuff. So if you can't find it, my advice is hit the 3 dots. And I was trying to just put it in the middle. And if you really can't find it, go to help, and usually they'll get you there. So the other thing that's kind of useful for docs is, and I'm going to go back to the left, is you can insert tables. Tables are useful. So you kind of move over to the table, you can pick how many columns, how many rows. And so if you're trying to put something together to be more organized, like, the name, what they will cover. So this might be the speakers. How long, etc. So if you're trying to kind of track all that, sometimes a table is good. And it's very easy. Once you're in the table, you right click, at least for Microsoft, and you can insert rows, insert columns, or delete rows and columns. So if I had too many columns when I thought, oh, I need 5, now I only need 3, I can go ahead and right click, and I can delete 2 columns, and now I've got this nice. So Google Docs is a lot like Word if you used Word. And I'm going to show a little bit more about it in a little bit. But I'm going to go back to my drive. And again, trying to figure out, well, where am I on my drive? I'm going to go my drive, back to my folders. So let's say for event 2, I needed to make a spreadsheet. So again, I can go to new. And now instead of Google Docs, I can do Google Sheets. Same thing, it'll have the same security and sharing rights as the folder, except now it's a spreadsheet. And if anybody has used I'm sure most people have used spreadsheets. It's very useful for doing calculations. Sometimes it's useful for doing lists, but I find that the tables within Google Doc is probably better. But if you wanted to, you had a bunch of numbers that you typed in and you wanted to add them up, there's different formulas you can use, or you can just add. So basically, what's nice about sheets is you can add up a bunch of numbers and do formulas. I'm not going to go through all of that, but same concept as docs. You have a place up here to put your title, and it's easy enough to edit these. So you don't like what's in A, you don't like the order. I'm going to move it. Probably not going to be able to move it now. Nope, so I won't do it. But you can do copies. So I'm copying all that I just did. Oh, another thing to note is for some computers, a right click will get you to copy. And then you go over here and right click, might let you paste. For other computers, that may not work, or for other tools that you're using. Again, if it's Microsoft, Control-C is a copy and Control-V is a paste. So that's what a spreadsheet looks like. I'm going to go back and show that you also can, from the drive, do Google Slides. And this is very similar to if you have Microsoft Office, doing slides. This is good for, it usually has some format choice, no, not format choices, themes. Over here, there's themes. So if you want to kind of use one that somebody has already done, you can do that and get creative. But again, it's pretty simple to, you can start creating if you don't like what you did. This is my flyer for event 1. And like join us. So that might be the only slide. Or this could be the slide that's going to be used in the event. So this is the welcome slide. And I can come over here and I can make a new slide, which would be empty. Or again, a right click and I can duplicate a slide. So your slides are over here. You can play around with them as much as you want. You can insert. So if you have a blank one, it gives you automatically like a title and add text, but you could also insert a text box and kind of put it where you want it. And there you can insert the text. You can also insert the table. So kind of like what we did before. Let me go to table. And I want to do 3 by 3. And there's a table within it. So similar to Google Docs, you can insert a variety of things to make it look the way you want. Again, I'm not going to show the whole, we could take hours talking about how to play with presentations. I will say, you notice that it tried to guess what your title is, because I already had event 1 in the first slide. The one thing to remember for all of these is you can't hurt it by playing around with it. So, try things out. Sometimes it gets frustrating, but you can easily delete slides. So if you do a slide and you're like, oh my God, that was terrible, you can usually find, there it is, the nice garbage can. You say, no, I don't like that slide. So it's great tools, and the best way to get familiar with them is not to be scared and just play with it and see what you can develop. People that are really creative will probably make nicer looking slides than I would, but it definitely is easy to use if you don't get intimidated. So that's the slides. Now, the next thing I wanted to show in a little bit more depth is, so again, I'm gonna go back to my drive, and I want for event 1 to create a form. I want to ask people what they want to know about for our event. So I'm going to go to Google Form, and I'm going to create and share. So Google Form is a way, and probably many of you have filled one out, but it's basically a way to ask people questions about maybe what they want to see at a meeting, what they feel about something, where their priorities are, whatever it could be. And so, again, pretty easy to use. You can title it. Let's say Event 1 Topics. We are having an open forum. Want to know what you think should be covered. Okay, as you notice, I can't type and spell all the time, but you can always back up. It's really easy. And you can ask your question, and there's different choices. There's multiple choice. Oops. Do that again. Short answer, paragraphs, multiple choice, check boxes, drop down. So there's a lot of ways you can ask a question. I'm just going to do a which topic should we cover? And I'll do a multiple choice. So option 1, voting rights, democracy at risk. And we'll do they always give you the option of adding other. So I have an other here, but I have an option 3 I didn't really mean to. So you notice over here, I can get rid of it. And let's say I wanted to ask a second question. This plus just lets you ask a second question. And let's say I want your name. And so that name, because I said name, it kind of knows it's going to be a short answer. So it automatically did that for me. But if you wanted it to be something else, you could change it. And notice down here, there's a little button that says, is it required or not? So if you put required, if somebody's filling out the form, they have to answer that question. So if I want to make sure I have the name of the person who answered it, I'd put required. Since we only have one other question, I would probably put required for this too. Now, let's say that I didn't like the order. I'm like, I should ask the name first. So you can basically left click on this and you can move it. Let's see. Here it is. You got to find where to move it. These dots right here, these 3 dots, that's how you can move it. So I'm going to move it above the first question. So if you see there's 6 dots there, that's what lets you grab it and move the questions around. So you can start doing this. You put your questions together. Again, you can move things. If you don't like a question, there's the nice garbage can. So it's very easy to use. And so once you have this, what you can do is when you say send, it'll give you the option of getting the link for it. You usually aren't going to send it to people directly, but you are going to take a link. So I'm going to take the link. I just pressed on it and I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to go to a new tab and I'm going to paste what it just told me. And I wanted to make sure it was auto-saving. So this is what the person getting it would look like. It would look like to them. So I am going to say, Linda, I can't type my own name. And I'm going to say, I really want to know about voting rights. Now, if I didn't pick, let's say I didn't put my name in. If I go to save at the very bottom and submit, it should tell me, yeah, the answer is required. So I'm going to put my name and I'm going to submit it. So I'm going to go back now to my form, which is over here. And you notice I now have one response. So I'm going to go into responses, and it'll tell me who's the one response and what they said. And so you'll get kind of statistics here. But if you want, and you want to see it in an easier way, see what each person said for each column, you can link it to a Google Sheet.
Marcy Edelston Schaefer.
And you're going to, you notice you get to this sheet, and now it shows me at what time somebody responded, their name. So it gives the exact, each column is the questions you asked and what the answers were. So this is a good way to track individually what people had said, or if you wanted to, if you were asking for emails and you wanted to email everybody, you'd have a nice column that would show everybody's email. So that's the way to use forms, and it's really helpful if you're just trying to gather information, and it's a good way to easily get people to give their input. Okay, I'm going to go back to my drive again. And the next thing I wanted to show, let's say for, I've got one, and you notice I've got this form, which I never titled, and I also didn't title the spreadsheet that goes with it. But I'm going to add a new, I'm going to do a Google Doc. And what I want to show here is, let's say that I wanted to share, let's see, a news article. So I wanted to share the link to that. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look up voting rights issues. Okay. And here's a good one. Judge says Galveston County violated U.S. voting rights. Okay. So I'm going to, so I've clicked on this news article, and I want to share it with people. So you go up here to the URL right here, and I'm going to copy it. So again, I'm going to do a Control-C, and I'm going to go over to my new document, and I'm going to Control-V to copy it. Now, it's not bad because it actually turns it into the name, but this is still a pretty long link. And let's say that you wanted, instead in the flyer, you wanted to do the link to the form that I had done. So I'm going to go to the form, and I'm going to get, using send, I'm going to get that link again. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go back to my Google Doc, and I'm going to paste it. Now you see here, this is a really long link. And sometimes in a document, you put a link in and it doesn't really recognize that it's a link. So the key there is to go to your menu again, the three dots, and go to the link here, and it'll turn it into a link. But still, it's pretty long. And if you were going to put this on a flyer, you'd be like, okay, I cannot put that on a flyer. So you want to make something smaller. And this is where I want to show Bitly. Bitly is a nice program. I'm going to go to another tab, and I'm going to type in Bitly, B-I-T-L-Y, and it just makes your URL shorter. So I'm going to go in there, and you notice right when you get in, I think it already knows it's me, but you might have to log in or create a login. But once you have that, you go to create new. You just press that button, and you notice it'll ask you, do you want to create a link or a QR code? So you could do either. I'm going to do a link first, then I'll show a QR code. So the first thing when it says destination, that's that long URL that I had for that form. So I put that in there. And then at the very bottom, see that blue dot that says create. So I'm going to hit create. Okay, and it created this document, this URL code right here. And you notice it's a lot shorter. And so you could copy that right now. And I think there is a ability, I'm going to I'm going to press on this. Yeah, see, if I press on it, it goes right there. You can also copy the link. So if I copy it, I can go to a new tab, paste it in, and that little link will get me to my form. But also, if you notice over here on the right next to copy, there is a edit, a little pen. And so what you can do instead of using this, whatever they came up with, you can give it its own name. So a lot of times the name is already used for something. So I'm going to try event 1 test and see if it likes it. You usually want to use some words that make sense to what you're trying to convey. Okay, so it was fine with it. So now I can copy it again. I can go to my Google Sheet, and instead of having to share this really long URL, I can share this nice short one. And again, the Google Doc didn't recognize it as a link, so I'm going to press link. Okay, so now if I press on that, it gets me to my form. So it's a nice short way to get people to the right document without having this really long link. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to create new again. Only this time I'm going to do a QR code. So I have to go back to my form, the one that I actually created and have control over. And I'm going to, again, get a copy of that link. And I'm going to go back to Bitly and say, okay, this is where I want you to land. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on. I'm going to go back to, I copy that link. So this is the link to the form. It's the long one. I'm going to go back to Bitly, put in that long one. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here. My sharing is in the way. Oh, it says, now this is a little bit, so instead of just create, it says design your code. So you could use the default. There's a lot of different ways you can have your code. And you could do colors if you wanted to. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to create my code. And okay. So it's interesting. It wouldn't let me do the same one. Because it already exists. So the one that I already made, you notice right here, it will let me create a QR code from that same one that I already created. So I'm going to do create QR code here, create my code. Okay, so that was fine. So it let me, for the same URL, create both a link, a short link, and a QR code. So I'm going to copy the code. I'm going to go back to my Google Doc. And I'm going to paste it. And it's kind of big, but there's my QR code. So if you wanted to put this on flyers, I'm not going to be able to show it here, but if you put it on a flyer and you printed it out and you gave it to people, they could, using their phone, get to that form, or if you used it for an event. And then the final thing that I wanted to show people that may not be familiar, sometimes, you know, again, and if you're doing a flyer or you're creating some kind of document, an event, and you want to have a graphic. So let's say I want to put voting rights graphic. So I look one up, and this one, I like this one, know your rights. So depending on where you're putting it, the app can be picky about what kind of picture it is. So if you notice, it's kind of hard to see, but at the bottom of this, as I'm showing it, it says that it's a JPEG. So some apps might be okay with the JPEG. Some like PNG. Sometimes when you find a picture, it might be HTML. There's different formats. You can do a copy paste. So I could do copy. Well, it says link. Sometimes you'll see copy image. I could do copy image, and I can go into my document here. Let me go below here, and I could paste it. But my QR code is in the way, so I'm going to do a new one. So if I go to paste that, you notice that the image did not come up. That's because that copy image didn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So the best advice is go to the image, do a save image as, and actually put it on your computer. So I'm going to put it under pictures, and I'm going to say voting rights. And it's a JPEG image. Now, for MailChimp, JPEG doesn't work well on all. It's like if somebody is looking at it through AOL or sometimes on their phone, you may think the picture is there in your email that you're using MailChimp, but it really won't show up. So the other tools that are out there are conversion tools. So let's say that I have this JPEG and I want to convert it to PNG, which is what MailChimp accepts. So I'm doing JPEG to PNG. And you don't have to know, because I don't know, what the heck a JPEG versus a PNG is. I have no idea. I just know that MailChimp does not like JPEG. And I learned it the hard way. So you notice here, and there's a couple different ones. This Convertio I've used a lot, and it's free. It's online. It says JPEG to PNG. So first thing it asks you to do is choose a file. So I'm going to go back and try to find my voting rights file. And here it is. Now, for some reason, it changed it to JFIF, which I think might be the same as JPEG. We'll see if it converts or not. If not, you can find a JFIF to PNG also. So I'm going to open it up, and then it says convert. So I'm going to hit convert. And it's converting, and once it's done, it'll say finished. It's kind of hard to read. And then you can download, and that means you're going to move it back to your computer. So I'm going to download it, and then I'm going to go back to I'm going to get rid of this. I don't want that anymore. And I'm going to insert a picture, which hopefully it lets me do. Otherwise, I'll go to another format. Oh, image. There we go. Insert image. It was right there. And I'm going to upload it from my computer. Now I'm going to look at downloads, because whenever you're done converting, it'll move it. When you say download to your computer, it'll put it in your downloads. So you'll have something called downloads. And here's my voting rights. And I can open it, and there it is. So for anything you're doing where you're trying to look for a graphic, it's best to save the graphic to your computer. And if you need to have it in a different format, do a conversion. If I'm going to go back to Convertio again, and I don't know if it's going to show me. Well, let's say convert more files. Let me go there. I'm just going to choose a file again. Okay, so you notice that it knows that it's a PNG, and there's this drop down here, and there's all kinds of choices that you can take the PNG and make it a JPEG. You can turn it into a web BP. Again, I don't know what a lot of these mean, but basically, if you know that you're looking for a certain extension here, and the document or the image you have is not in that format, you can go to one of these converters and you can find a way to switch it. So that's it for all the little tips that I wanted to share. And hopefully everybody is still with me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to stop the recording. Everybody have a great